When answering exam questions, there are a few key things to remember, right? So just remember, exam technique is a key part in preparation for any exams, and it's something that you'll pick up the more you go and you do past papers. Right, so many questions in exams are repeats of what will be in old exams. So going and looking at lots of generic questions beforehand is a good idea. When going and answering and questions and reading them, there's a few things just take into account. Make sure you go read the question at least twice so you don't make any mistakes when you're reading them. As you're reading them, go highlight key information. Don't make assumptions about what the question's asking. Make sure after you've answered it, you go check your work for daft errors that you might make. And if it involves going and answering something where there's some calculation, make sure that you write your workings out down. Right, let's go and have a look at the question. So in this question, we are just going to have a look at how selective breeding can be used. So just to go through some key things about selective breeding, just to remind you, selective breeding involves choosing parents with particular characteristics to breed together and produce offspring with more desirable characteristics. So we as humans have selectively bred plants and animals for thousands of years, including crops and various farm animals. And there are three methods of selective breeding. Right, so they're outcrossing, they're inbreeding, and they're line breeding. So some key things when we're carrying out selective breeding. So we need to decide on the characteristics that are important for us to breed. We need to choose parents that show these characteristics from a mixed population and then breed them together. Then we need to choose the best offspring with those desired characteristics and breed those together to produce the next generation. Right, and we repeat this continuously until we have what we are looking for, so the desired characteristic. So if we go and have a look at this question, so there are many types of animals that use selective breeding to produce them. Right, so some cats, right, so it's a question about cats, are selectively bred so that they do not cause allergies in people. So suggest two of the reasons why people might selectively breed cats. Right, some key things that you can go and talk about is that so they don't have specific genetic defects. So to produce docile cats, so they're not aggressive. And for other aesthetic reasons, so to make them look in a particular way. So selective breeding causes problems of inbreeding in cats. Describe one problem with inbreeding. Right, remember that inbreeding comes from having that limited gene pool. So the cats are more likely to pass on recessive disorders or might be more susceptible to diseases. Right, they might be two of the main problems caused by it. So moving on to something that's a little bit more complicated. So many people have breathing problems and are allergic to cats. So the algae that caused the cat problem is called FeLD1. So different cats produce different amounts of it. A cat has been bred that does not produce FeLD1. So the cat does not cause an allergic reaction. So all of this is going to be about selectively breeding a cat that doesn't cause an allergic reaction in humans. So explain how this cat has been produced by selective breeding. Right, it's worth 4 marks. So there's 4 key things, at least 4 key things that we need to talk about. So we could go and look at the fact that we're going to have parents with selected characteristics are going to be chosen to go and breed together. We could go and talk about then the parents bred together in order to produce offspring. So the offspring with desired characteristics are then selectively bred, and this is repeated over many generations. Right, so that's kind of the process. So if we just look at the explanation for this process, so we need to talk about parents who produce the least amount of FeLD1 are initially selected. Right, so in their offspring, we will then look for individuals that produce a small amount of FeLD1, right, because there'll be a variation. So care will be taken to ensure that cats are relatively healthy, and over time the population will be selectively bred so that the cats will produce progressively less of this allergen over time. Right, so there's some key things that you'll talk about when answering that longer part of the question. So hopefully you have found that useful. If you've got any questions, then drop it in the comments below, and we'll be uploading a lot more. Right, good luck, folks.